Hey there, so today we have another review. This is a beer from New Belgium. This is Atomic Pumpkin. I've never reviewed this beer on the channel. I don't believe I've ever had this beer in my life. Maybe. Actually, I'm not quite sure. But pretty crazy. This is a spicy pumpkin beer. And now I definitely have a review because New Belgium is just so big. The Voodoo Ranger brand is... I mean, that's the biggest craft... Well, is it the... For IPA-wise, that's the biggest craft brand in the country. So, or if you count it as craft. So you got to review any Voodoo Rangers and all that good stuff, and now I'm reviewing their pumpkin beer. So why they have a, so it's like ale brew pumpkin, cinnamon, and chilies. Why they think chilies and pumpkin make sense, I don't know, but let's try it out. Yeah, I got to work on my glassware. It still has been an issue, but I got to work on that. So anyway, yes. There we go. Looks a little bit better. Beer looks like a pumpkin beer, right? I actually, by the way, can already smell the chilies. Just waving it like this far from my nose. The beer comes in a really nice kind of deep gold to light amber color. Probably light amber is probably the best color. Beautiful clarity on that. Beautiful white head being created. Or off white head. On the nose, just like I was suggesting, it has a big chili nose. It's just that green pepper thing. If you don't like green pepper and bell pepper and all that kind of like jalapeno kind of thing going on, you're not gonna like this. Very noticeable. Reminds me of people making, homebrew chili, this kind of brew, the fun flavors that homebrewers kind of use. Chili is one of them, and just has that kind of fresh green jalapeno bell pepper thing. Having the pyrazines, and then underneath you definitely get the cinnamon spice, a little bit of that kind of like, the pumpkin doesn't really have much of a flavor outside of like, the actual spices around the pumpkin. So cinnamon, chili, it's weird. It's almost like a pumpkin pie cinnamon thing with like jalapenos involved in something like that. I don't know. Cheers. Okay. So, in general, first impression is the beer is actually quite watery. It's always important in my mind when you make pumpkin beer to really focus on what you're doing with the base beer, right? It's so important to have anytime you use adjuncts and, just creation of a profile of a beer or, recipe creation and the end result of the beer and whatever you add. I would argue that it's quite important to think about what your actual beer is and then think about ingredients, right? Underneath here, it's a really almost like watery blonde ale with a little bit of pumpkin spice, and then this chili heat on the back end, which I actually sort of enjoy. I generally like chili beers, and this beer is actually quite spicy for most people. I mean, it's not going to burn my butt off or anything, and it stings on the back end quite nicely. It's fun, but I think for most people, they'd actually find this spicy. I guess I'm spoiled in the sense of what I consider spicy because grew up eating spicy food, blah, blah, blah. I have a decent hot heat tolerance. I have an okay, actually I have I'd say a good heat tolerance. Katie has like a really good one. Wow. This beer is actually insanely watery. Reminds me of like almost like a blonde ale. The cinnamon is actually quite light. Doesn't really have much body from the pumpkin. And then you just get this like noticeable heat on the back end. Like it's clearly a spice beer. It's clearly a chili beer. And it's so crazy that they would just make such a bland base beer and then just have so much chili flavor behind it. It's almost like a joke beer. Wow. This beer's incredible. It's incredible in how bland it is and how much chili flavor there is in this beer. There's so much chili compared to how much beer flavor there is. Wow, this beer really stinks. Crazy. Wow. Yeah, it's a one-trick pony. It really just has like very, very pale, grainy, bland, watery beer flavor to it. Some cinnamon. And then it really doesn't have any complexity of spices too. Like you don't get this like full, rich, round flavor of like allspice and nutmeg and bread crust and pie crust and blah, 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 blah. It's... you can dissect the aromatics and other things about the beer, but just on the palate, I think a lot of people full blind would just guess this was like almost something like a Kona Big Wave with a hint of cinnamon and a hint of chili. The heat is actually just too intense. Like, I'm okay with it, but it really needs a base beer and like rounded character to sort of make, like, if this beer was richer, it would have sort of make a little sense, you know, like maybe you could throw a little bit of like cayenne pepper on my pumpkin pie and I wouldn't care. But here it's just like a stinging back. It's like a bland, watery beer, and then there's a stinging heat on the back of my throat. So it's not even like a palate chili. Sometimes like chili beers can have like a well, beers generally don't do well with chili, but ideally it would be a little bit more rounded. But it shoots in your back of your throat, like almost like you have a cold or something, or like a cold or a fever. You know, right? Like you're sick and burning the back of your throat. Wow, this beer really just not good. It's super bland. This is got to be one of the worst pumpkin beers I've had in a long time. So, rating. Incredible. Let's go with a C-ish rating. I mean, there's no off flavor. It's very boring. I mean, what at the rating of like who cares what, who knows what's? It's 73. 73. It's not a yeah, that's low enough. 73. Yeah, that's low enough. 73. No off flavors. It's drinkable. I'm probably gonna finish it, but like, well, if I'm gonna finish it, I probably need a higher rating, right? Sure, let's go 75. Yeah, 75. Sure. Until next time, cheers. Let me know if you've had this beer. Later. Cheers.